Thank you, Hayan. Um, yeah, lovely to be with you all. Um, Thank you for inviting me to speak. So yes, as was said, my name's Guy, and I'm coming in from Totnes. Um, and Transition Streets is a very special project to us. Um, Transition Street started, well, we started running it in 2009. And for those that don't know, the project works where neighbours meet across households of 6 to 8 with an aim of reducing their, exploring ways of reducing their household bills, reducing their carbon footprint, and they do so by running sort of fortnightly sessions with a handbook that we provide for them, where they look at the topics of food, energy, waste, water, resource use. So as I said, we started in 2009, and then we brought it back in 2021. Um, And the focus in 2009 in the early days was predominantly about the saving energy element. We'd been lucky in receiving a large grant, which made it so that participants that were involved could also have an easier access into putting solar panels on their roof, um, and making other energy reduction interventions. And at that time, we engaged around 550 homes across Totnes. Um, And then in around 2012, as we sort of reached the point of that, we focused on helping groups across the world take it and run with it and set it up. And then in 2021, like I say, we brought it back again, following two strands of work really. One was that we had done a consultation, following when councils across the country were declaring a climate emergency, which was from our side, we were like, nice, cool, welcome to the table. But what does that tangibly mean? So we ran a community consultation of being like, Totnes Town Council has declared a climate emergency. What do people want to see from that? And one of the things that one of the response that came quite strongly from there was that they wanted to see the Transition Streets model updated, brought back, seeing how it was relevant to these times. And also, we had noticed the impacts of the lockdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've noticed the rising of social isolation, um, and the impact that was having on people's mental health. And we knew the benefits of that we recorded from the first round of Transition Streets on the social connection and the people that some people who had been experiencing, were in lockdown, had set up WhatsApp or Signal group chats with the people that they had run their Transition Streets with nearly a decade before. Um, so just an overview of the sort of the nice juicy outcomes of the project, um, with the focus on energy saving and money saving. We record that on average households save about 1.4 tons of carbon, um, per household per year, which here is about the equivalent of taking one small car off the road, um, and about £818 off their household bills. Now, however, as I said about the social element, the main benefit that people reported when doing the Transition Streets project, which we didn't initially get set out to with the direct aim for, was this social connective element. So yes, people in the project knew that like how much energy they would save by switching their lights to LED, or um, how much water they could save, etc. The main thing they reported was, now I know this connection of neighbors that I can rely on. So maybe that's, I know someone who has tools that I would often need to buy that I can now go to them for, or I know someone who can do can lend in babysitting time, or I can this and that and that. And that was the brilliant thing that how it had emerged from trying to take the transition principles that we were running these big talks, but we needed something that people could take home with them. Um, and we focused on bringing the resources initially from the energy working group and having that accessible to people at home. So when people were coming to us and saying, this is great, but the main thing I now have is this social network, we're like, okay, this is the brilliance of this project. So beyond the practical savings that people made, we noticed that people were setting up autonomously from whatever their shared interest was. People went on to set up food growing spaces on their street. People do this thing called play streets, which is where you basically shut down the road and turn it into like a carnival party. One group went on to set up a community cinema in a sort of an adjacent village called Follerton. We had the first lot in the last round. We think it's the first UK garage library of things. So a group of homes that have garages for each house. One family didn't have a car, so they were like, let's turn this garage into a shared tool material space for the whole street. One set of neighbors even went as far as like knocking the wall down between their homes, which we only recommend with planning permission. It's a bit too that's community to a nth degree. So because the brilliance of this project that we realized was that it builds upon principles of, the peace movement, the women's rights movement, of that if you create self-facilitating, awareness-raising, supportive spaces, you can build deep trust around shared issues to allow people the autonomy to go forward, and that's what drives the change. So this leads to behavior change, which is the sort of thing that transition has beautifully embedded into its vision. It's the long-lasting sort of consciousness shifts that happen when you have these kind of self-facilitating people-led spaces. And that's when we realize, when you look at the principles of behavior change, not everyone is an early adopter of new practices. You might need to see something work in action before you consider it, whether that's seeing someone have solar set up and seeing how that system works before investing in it, or seeing how people have done draft proofing, loft insulation, these sorts of things. See someone with an electric bike, and then you can consider it, or you just need a supportive network to help make these changes. So to make adopting them easier, like having a network of people who you can set up a car share with, that you might not have known was available beforehand. And yeah, like I say, this came from us from this realization that we needed to be making this link. We were holding these big events with big speakers, and they were lovely and they were brilliant, but that's not accessible to everyone. And it's not the thing that made that link for us. And in this way, the project, people have control over it. It's in their home, it's with their neighbors. They have a few resources from us, a few nudges, a few bits of advice, but it's about a group of people on the same journey. And that's all that was really needed to really blossom it into those 550 homes and then take it international, and then what we're doing now with it. And that's what manifests the realization for people that change is possible on this sort of local community level. And so, yeah, I love the project. I think it's one of the best in the world of transition, and I'm excited if more places can take it up.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's really great hearing all those different things that are happening in transition streets. And also you mentioned that it started maybe as a like energy saving project, and people are more and more thinking of it as a way for people to stay connected. I think it's really great. And thank you so much for your sharing. And before we go into Mary and Tom's presentation, there's a video of the transition street in the United States that I want to share.
Transition Streets is a tried and tested project where people come together with their neighbors to implement low-cost and no-cost actions. Actions that actually help them save water and save energy and save money while growing more food and rethinking how we transport ourselves and actually building community in the process.
Participants are seeing so many benefits from this program, starting with saving money. The average household is saving $900 a year. Second, they're lowering their carbon emissions. Each family is saving up to 1.3 tons of carbon each year.
If you think about it, you know, there has never been a time when our small choices have mattered more, given drought and floods and climate disruptions and social justice and economic issues. And so a lot of people are taking individual action to reduce their waste and to reduce water and resource use and to grow food. But given the scale of the challenge we're facing, will individual actions alone do it? At the same time, there's a lot of people who want to take action and do something, but they feel kind of overwhelmed or they don't know where to start.
You know, Trayson, I can think of no better jump-off point than starting a transition streets in your own community.
That's what's beautiful about having a proven program that's being implemented in many other places that could actually give people a really easy format, good tools, in-person support from Transition US.
So where do you begin? Go online to www.transitionus.org and you can download the workbook. This workbook will take you through all the steps you need. Neighbors get together and have 7 meetings, and in those meetings start to outline low and no cost steps that they can take to save money or resources and also lower their carbon footprint.
It actually sparks creativity as well, because people start to look at their garden differently. They start to get excited about the possibility of harvesting the sun on their roof. And they also start to think of fun and innovative ways to really further connect with and support and engage their neighbors and friends.
And like you alluded to, give people a purpose that's more than just their own actions, but building community, creating safer, more viable neighborhoods. Then people can actually watch the momentum grow.
So please join us, Pandora and myself and the folks all across the US and the world who are taking this program and they're taking action where they live. Bring Transition Streets to your community. To find out more, just go to transitionus.org.
Thank you so much for watching this. I think probably like what struck me most was like the autonomous side of it. Like community can like decide what kind of project they want to do based on like their own culture, what kind of resources they have. And now let's welcome our next presentation. We have Tom and Mary doing the presentation on the online resources and work from Transition in Australia.
Well, thank you, Banyule, and it's great to see people from so many different countries, from New Zealand, from Poland, Colombia, I think I saw, and UK. I haven't named them all, but welcome, and it's great to see you all here. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. That's Wurundjeri land. And when I heard Guy talking about the early days, at that stage, a few of us in Melbourne, first of all, the people in Newcastle heard about the Totnes program and rewrote the book for Australia and practiced it there in about November, about 2013, 14. Groups met while they were writing the next chapter. And then in other parts of Australia, we heard about it and worked with the Newcastle people to rewrite the Newcastle book to be Australia-wide. And then we had groups where I was then getting people in my area, Transition Banyule. We ended up with 20 groups. We had a special meeting to get people excited, and they all met and used the book. We had funding from council to print 100 copies so that as each group met, we could give them the book. And we found that's really important, to have that launch, some sort of ongoing meeting afterwards to encourage people so they feel they're part of something bigger. And so I endorse everything Guy said about it, that it is, and the video clip, that it is about saving energy and so forth, and above all, it's about connecting. And I'd like to show you the a couple of little clips, because I think hearing from some of the people who've participated, I can't think of any better way. So Tom's just going to share the screen. You'll see some people from Transition Street, Geelong. And here we go.
How do you start a transition street? Could I turn my street into a transition street, for instance? I know there's this handbook full of good advice and so on, but what are the rules really and how does it work? To find out, let's talk with the coordinator of Transition Street Geelong and also with some of all the people in this town who are in the process of transitioning their own streets. I'm out to find out, how do you start a transition? Because I want to start one in my own street.
We've got maybe 10 houses in our street, and we all kind of know each other already a little bit, so that there's that stranger danger isn't kind of there. But, you know, in saying that, we want to make it awesome so then we can bring it to the wider community as well.
So the handbook is a bit like a manual with chapters on water, energy, food, transport, waste and consumption, and so on. It gives lots of advice on how you can go about these things.
Everybody has different personalities, you know, and even though you all live in the same street, you don't know each other really well, but you know each other well enough that you like have that common ground. And so I think it's really nice to build that community and for us to all share and care and give, I guess. You know, it's a nice thing. So we set up a Facebook page, and we've had it for a little bit, but that's a good way for us to communicate this. And so even the people that might not come to the meetings, but they might still be interested to feed Karen's chooks.
Yes.
You know,
so they read it.
Let their kids come and have beautiful apples. And then we're talking about doing a veggie garden that we can share. And I said to my neighbour on the other side, and she was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. You know, that's awesome. So everybody's really keen to learn, and we all just want to learn together, I guess. Isn't it? Do you think?
Yeah, it is. I think it is too. And it is creating that sense of community. We're getting to know each other better as well. And yeah, we're all on a bit of a learning thing, and we all picked food. That was what we wanted to start with, because it's something universal that we all like, and things have been fairly organic, haven't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so could you all see that and hear it? Because I couldn't tell. But I just thought those two women said a lot more than I could say about what it's like to be in a group and be part of it. And you can see from their faces how much they appreciate the neighbourliness. And that's what Guy mentioned, and the other video, that above all, it's that connectedness that people value. And I've got another little clip I'd like to show, and I don't know whether Tom wants to try it or I could go. You want to try?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know why it wasn't running.
Second clip. Now this one shows, you'll hear from some other people also involved with one of the many groups in Transition Geelong. Not working?
No, it won't play. It won't play. Okay.
All right, well, I'll try. I'll do a screen share. And
we did try it before and it was working. So.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. Share. Now I just have to go to here. Oh, no, it's too hard. Okay, let's try this one.
We started a Transition Streets group about 12 months ago, and you know, you've got the 5 themes: water, energy, food, waste and transport, and we've covered all of them, and we've ended up we've got better electricity deals.
Tom, you might just have to unshare your end.
You know, when we've got excess, it's worked really well.
Is it not working?
Travel is like 30% of the county's carbon emissions, and we have a bit of a struggle with transporting Totnes because we're such a through road of people in the surrounding towns and cities. But a cool story is that I was once attending a steering group on traffic and transport in the town council, and that was something that had merged from the Transition Town Totnes working group on travel that the town council then picked up and ran with and set it up, and they hold it now. And I attended one of their meetings, and there was a group of people handing out flyers on the way in because they wanted to make a petition, and they handed me one and they said, "We're the Plymouth Road Transition Streets group. We're actively engaged in wanting to change the travel systems in Totnes." And I was like, we should probably chat. We have a connection here. That was really cool. So yeah, just chopping that in there because correcting what I said earlier.
Yeah, and I also
It's-
got the video
Yeah.
link now. I'll be sharing the screen right away.
Okay. And start at 4:24.
Yes,
I think I see
got it. 4:24, right?
Yeah. And go to 7:07, 7:04.
Right. Can you
We
see and hear the video okay? Yeah.
started a transition streets group about 12 months ago, and you know, you've got the 5 themes: water, energy, food, waste and transport, and we've covered all of them, and we've ended up we've got better electricity deals through it. We share fruit and veggies, you know, when we've got excess. It's worked really well. We meet once every month or two, and now we've gone on to a new stage where we're working out where we go from now, and there'll be a lot more interchange of ideas, I'm sure, and maybe, you know, sharing of tools and equipment.
Like our neighbours, we're going to go out and get those leaves. They're going to be a good layer, or in the compost, or just bring on chooks. Run on chooks, they're only a year old.
This was our very first meeting in Transition Street, and so you're in this house with all these people who were members of Transition Street, all sitting around the table. And I remember saying, I am probably the last person you would ever expect at this forum. This is not me, this is not what I do, you know. I sit in business, I manage people, I manage organizations, that's what I do. I don't go into these spaces. So for me, it was actually quite it was quite a leap just to get in the room. But what was even more profound was that in the next few minutes, when everybody shared their story about who they were, what they were, and, you know, their journey in life, it was like, wow, I can't believe these are my neighbours. And you walk past these people every day in the street, and they're all so amazing people, and yet we don't know it. We're completely oblivious to it because society kind of separates us all from one another, so we don't have this connection. And so I think things like Transition Street are really powerful for reconnecting and joining up people with their own neighbours, and just understanding who people are, what they have to offer, what they have to share, the amount of wisdom, knowledge, experience, and, you know, and people are basically there to help connect and join people, rather than this, you know, corporate separatism and trying to keep people and holding fear and doing all of those sorts of things. You come into these environments and you realise, hang on, that's all fake. This is the real world, and we need to spend more time here.
Just to bring the community together. We're all really disjointed, and no one seems to know each other very much along the street anymore. And I want to bring everyone together and have that sense of community again.
We get to know our neighbours and bring the horizon.
Yeah, is that it?
Yes, thank you. Sorry about the delay, everyone, but that's life. And Tom had a little bit to say. I don't know how we've gone for time. We're probably way over now.
Yeah,
you can be brief, Tom.
I will skip through. I'll try and share again, and I hope that this works. Oh God, sorry. Right, you see a screen? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Very, very quickly. This is a little PDF that I've put a link through so you can get through to it. So we were just trying to do a report. Mary's covered the background that we had the printed version, but in 2018, money was running out and groups were relying on the PDF and then self-printing black and white. We wanted to, obviously, guys touched on this, we had to have something where we had the regular meetings where people could get together, but also where it was short term, where they weren't locked in, so they could then choose afterwards to then go and join a group. So it tended to get people in because they weren't overcommitting from the start, but then they found out what was going on. So we realized this was very much a seed program to start a group or to grow a group. So if you've got a group, getting more people in. Right. So how do we update it? We got a grant for the update. We found that the 2015 version was proprietary locked, so we used Apple Pages to redo it. And the idea was to produce a shorter print version supported by online resources. So it ended up, oh Lord, going the wrong way. Come on, come on. Wow, sorry about this. I don't know what my computer is doing. I think I'll throw this thing in the bin. Right, there's our new layout. Okay, so the point is that in a page, there will be links through to web information, which was also appearing on our main website. What we did though was, this is, I think, worked quite well. We had the layout, so each session was only 4 pages. The first page, Lord almighty. Okay, the first page introduced hard data, showed all the information, packed it in, there'd be links how to do it. The second page was things you could do straight away, household tips, quick actions, bit of feedback, stuff to tick off. The third page was budgeting, spending money on things you could then advance the course. And the fourth page was challenges between the meetings, things to do between the meetings, go for walks, meet up with other people, some kids activities, and a little bit of a lesson plan for the coordinator. So the short guide meant that people could just print 32 pages or 2 pages for each session and made it really accessible. And so a lot of groups started to localize it. They could get in because it's free software, open software, and make changes for their own version of it. Mary's talked about the transition streets, but I must admit, 2 things that strike us is you've got to think about the initiator who's going to drive it in your area, and then there's the facilitators who actually run the sessions. But we were lucky, Geelong, they had one really key initiator who got it all going. We've touched on the videos. Look this up. This is the Sustainable Hour did that series of Show Me How to Transition videos. Definitely look those up. We were so lucky because we hit lockdown and we actually had produced this short online version. So a lot of our previous keen initiators, and Richard's on the screen there, started running Zoom sessions. So we were in lockdown for nearly 2.5 years. So it was really important that we could keep maintaining groups. And fortunately, we produced the online version, so that was able to happen. It's not being used as much now, the online version. We've have to work on this. But what we have found is, again, because it's digital files and it can be remanipulated using Apple Pages, people are starting to produce their own little brochures, their own little information pages, drawing on that same information. But we have tended to forget about it as the gateway transition. So it's working, and Mary and I and the others are all going to go, we have to get cracking and getting streets groups running again. And maybe if somebody wants to send us a lot of money, we can think about 3, because there's kind of been different changes in how people are thinking about the problems. Our book was, energy, water, transport, waste. If we do 3, we may have to rethink how those things are grouped together. but it doesn't really matter. Whatever we come up with, if we revise it or not, it's a terrific approach for producing the localized self-informed discussion groups and for starting and growing groups. That's the end of my talk. So I'll stop right there.
Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing the resources and also the guidebook, the guidelines for doing the transition in your streets. And also now I'll be sharing the video of the transition in Belgium. Yep. I think it's very good to see like how much people are really enjoying the different projects they have. And yeah, now let's welcome Guy again to talk about the current revival plan and to revisit the transition streets.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so like I say, we ran it again in 2021, following the COVID pandemic, and we ran with 13 groups trialing this new updated model. And that's where we noticed this increase in savings based on the previous the initial run, and an increase in uptake in the activities that we put in, like play streets in particular, that people could get involved with. And so what we're doing at the moment is, since that sort of period ended, we sort of made the resources open source. We started sharing it with areas that we had connected with in dips and dabs across the UK. So the local council in Three Rivers were able to run with it. We started being able to put it out in Wales, who are now translating their own copy into Welsh, which is brilliant to see. And what we're looking at the moment is doing a partnership project work across the county. So there's Totnes, which is a town of like 10,000 residents, and then we've got our district, the South Hams, and then the county is Devon. and working within their Devon carbon plan, to make sure we're helping to help they're already actually making good progress. They've sort of decreased by about 4% on carbon emissions since between 2020 to 2022. So we're looking to expand the model across Devon is the plan. Expanding the model by looking at new chapters to put in. One in particular that we've got a lot of feedback from is about nature recovery, about how people can use the green spaces that they have, whether that's gardens, or if they have green spaces that are owned by the council, if they don't have gardens themselves, that they can have an impact on. We're really noticing this trend with like garden use in particular in Totnes. So we ran projects in the past like Garden Share, which was basically like if you have a garden but you don't use it, someone who knows how to garden match up, share the produce that you harvest. But there's a real discussion thread that we're following now about rewilding and nature recovery, and the international 30 by 30 aim of restoring 30% of land and sea for nature recovery by the year 2030. And so we want to bring that in as a chapter. We also want to expand the data that's gathered. So looking not just at carbon, but greenhouse gases generally, and seeing what data we can get from that. We're also, I mean, it's brought up in the first session, I think, of today about disaster relief. We're looking at the Cool Blocks program in the States, which is kind of, it has parallels with Transition Streets, but their focus is a bit more on disaster relief. So seeing what we can learn from that model as well. And we want to expand the reach of the project in how we can make it more accessible. So how we can make it more accessible to those on low income, those who are renting, make the materials more inclusive, so make them more easy to read, make more audio and visual materials that people with difficulties can't currently engage with it. And one part of this new planned rollout, so we haven't got funding yet, but we're like pushing for it like heck, is to work with these organizations in making use of public spaces for those who aren't able to use their home. So better utilization of public libraries especially. So we're aware of a big a big plan at the moment to help make libraries more accessible, get more activities in them. So we want to pair with that to utilize that as the Transition Streets program. And also work with this thing called Vive. So one thing that Transition Streets participants always reported was that they want something beyond the end of the program. And so working with the Transition Together team in the UK, they've created this Vive model, which is a bit like a social network platform, but a bit less unhealthy than Facebook, etc. A bit more of a slow social media platform, so that we can hold more inter-streets events and have more inter-street connection. So people can look at, I've been able to run this on my, in our group, maybe that connects to some group that's doing something on the other side of the county, and they can be in connection, and we can host inter-street events as well. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. We're looking at what about the model can be updated, what new chapters can be put in, and we hope to be all fingers crossed rolling that out next year. Well, latest being early this year. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Guy, for your sharing. And also, we do have like a kind of discussion question for all our presenters and also for the audiences as well. So, what do you think the groups worldwide can do next? And especially, what are some of the practical steps and tips for replicating this kind of Transition Street projects elsewhere?
Well, I'd love to know the answer to that. So I'd really love to hear from other people here with ideas. To me, the materials are there, the resources are there, or they can be updated. And what's challenging is motivating people to actually join a group or start a group. So if people have got ideas on that, let's say them.
And also, I think probably a very quick question from me. So I noticed in one of the videos, it says that because it's very community-based, so people, they already know each other a little bit. So I'm wondering, like, is it really like kind of easy for people to start the transition street? Is it always this easy?
I can answer that a little bit. Oh, go on. When we did it where I live in Banyule, we had a big launch and people got people excited and they put their hand up to start a group. But then and the same in Geelong when Monica was getting lots of groups going, we had leaflets printed and the person would sometimes leaflet the neighbourhood and then get some responses. And more recently, after COVID, when people were a bit more cautious, Monica found that leafleting them and this is not, you leaflet 200 people, so a lot of them don't know you. But once they've come to a garden, what Monica found that worked was, especially after COVID, was to leaflet the neighbourhood, inviting them to a one-off working bee at my backyard. Come to this working bee, and we'll follow with lunch or something in the backyard. So you weren't going to catch COVID from anyone. And they found people responded to that. And then you'd get a bit of neighbourliness happening, and then you might start a discussion group. And just one other thing I want to pop in, that I spoke just today to Mick, who produced that video you saw back in 2019. He said a lot of the groups, they don't meet anymore, but there's a lot of neighbourliness still happening. They did meet through those groups, and now they don't call it transition streets, they call it sharing with neighbours. Just threw that in. But yeah, other people's ideas.
Yeah, I can say a little bit on different things. One, I don't know if how other models take this up, but yeah, one of the premises is that yes, it's primarily self-facilitating and groups are autonomous, and we have we encourage a different household to facilitate each session. But that's bookended by a session at the start and a session at the end, where we train a facilitator to come in and work with the groups on the first and last session. So in the first session, they're there to help make a group agreement. This is particularly helpful if the group, if these neighbours have never met before, and maybe they're not, maybe their work backgrounds, etc., don't mean they know exactly how to hold that kind of space. So we help by training facilitator, the first one to help with that, and then the last one to sort of help work out where you go next. And we provide like a facilitator pack essentially. So there's facilitator tools for each session. So it's a bit like a bit of extra resources, maybe some activity tips, so that if you're facilitating that session for the first time and you have people in your home, then there are things and advice for, like, if this isn't working in the session, you can maybe try adding this in, and it just makes the whole process a bit more comfortable. In relation to like going where and someone's commented about it's hard going from home to home. When we first reran the project in 2021, we were adapting it to be online, to run virtually like we are today, because that was, we were forced by necessity of being online in COVID times, and that did still work. That did still have groups going, and then when they were able to meet socially, they did that. But that was, it was inconvenient, but it wasn't a total barrier. And regarding like where to go next, it's sort of similar principles of general transition work. Go where people are. if there are, we've had that issue before where we've like run an event and we've been like, this is the launch of, this is the Transition Streets event, and it has not had nearly as much interest as like the local primary school has run a climate day the very next week, and we were like, we should have just had a stall there, like, you know, go to where there's already interest and sort of find, and as has been commented, think about what the hooks are for people. So regarding the hooks that get people, it's really varied. Like, some people have come in primarily for the financial savings, which is totally valid, especially now. Some people come in for the climate aware, you know, with their climate awareness. Some people come in purely for the social element. They're like, you know, that people will get brought in by a neighbor. The fundamental thing is working with, seeing what people are already gravitating towards, and if you can find pioneer like people, really that's what can motivate the street. Finding one eager person who's maybe doing a few things and being like, do you think this could work for you on your street? You know, that can be the first stepping point. And like I say, you know, there are things that help people get going, and we've found the best ways of doing things like film nights, you know, where people can converge on a shared interest. Maybe it's a film about this or that, and then you made that space afterwards of like, if you would like to engage in this topic more than the film night itself, this is something that you can be doing. And if anyone would like to have me share with them the updated handbook that we're running with, I'm happy to. If you send me an email, I can send it over to you. You can see what we've been putting in, and yeah. So and also having a digital copy, you know, removes that barrier of needing to print a physical copy, because that is, it's, you know, it's a fairly low cost project really, but there are, you know, the biggest costs are the administrative time of having someone to organize streets and do the work that Mary, Tom, I are doing, and then the printing cost. So if people can, you know, do it with a virtual handbook if that's needed. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary and Guy, for sharing. And it would be really great to hear from our audiences what are some of your thoughts on maybe starting Transition Street, or if you have any other questions you want to ask. So feel free to open your mic or put your thoughts in the chat.
Well, I've unmuted, so I'll say,
Tom, I really want to hear from some other people who are here. Sorry. It'd be really good to know what other people here think. No one has spoken.
Question? I'd like to speak.
Yeah, Jackie.
Yeah. No, I'm here in the UK. Do you think it's really important to? Oh, sorry. Do you think it's really important to have a launch event in a town where you launch the whole project and invite people to come, like to a presentation? I don't know, from people's experience, do you think that's an important element?
I'll answer that because I have had experience of that both where I live, and I know that Monica in Geelong had it. Yes, it doesn't mean you have to do it that way, because in Kingston they didn't. They just invited a few neighbours, had one little group, and then the next year each of them started groups. But it definitely can help to have a big, exciting launch that gets everyone excited and motivated.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Leslie, speak.
Yeah. I just want to thank the three of you for sharing the information. It's been really useful for me to hear. We started Transition Penwith, which is in West Cornwall in the United Kingdom, after Totnes, actually. We were the second one, and we've been kind of bumbling along, doing really sort of like well at the beginning and then sort of dropping off, and just recently it's been quite dormant. And I think Transition Streets it feels like a really good way to start and to reignite energy. I guess my pondering or my question is about the difference between whether or not it could work in a sort of hamlet. We live in the rural area of Cornwall, and there's, it's not like a big city with lots of streets that are very good. We've got some streets in Penzance and some of the other towns, but I was just wondering if anybody's thought or had experience about doing it on like a village level, or if the fact that people actually living next door to each other is the thing that makes it work. I'd just be really interested in thoughts on that.
I think it is a factor. Yeah, I mean that physical, that physical proximity is an element. We have that being said, one role that we did when we were gathering interest was we were seeing if someone had an interest but they couldn't run it with the people directly next to them for different reasons, we would see what interest there was in the sort of the sound surrounding areas, and we try and pair people up, and that still was able to get some streets going that way. Like I say, Totnes is about 10,000 people live there, but we also ran one group in a small village called Harberton Ford, where everyone lived, a good 5-minute walk away from each other. And that was just, it worked because the people had the capacity and the interest and the passion for it. So it's yeah, I don't know my wider point, but it's possible. We've been able to see it work in small villages where most people don't live directly attached to someone else.